Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. My name is Zoe Gilbronson, and I'm delighted to serve as your worship associate today and to welcome you fully in this space. We welcome all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies here. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit here. We welcome all you are bringing with you today and all your heart longs to set down. We welcome all of you. We extend a special welcome to each guest among us. Guests are invited to come early on another Sunday and drop into the Inquirers session at 10:10 a.m. in the parlor, where you can learn about Unitarian Universalism in our church. We would like to connect with our guests, so we invite you to fill out a welcome card located in the pew rack in front of you and drop it in the offering plate later in the service. You can also pick up a welcome packet at the back of the sanctuary. If you are a visiting family, including children or youth, after the time for all ages, please join the children's recessional and head across the hall to the common room. There, you will be greeted by someone who will orient you and your family to religious education. Immediately following the service, everyone is invited for coffee and conversation in the common room across the hall. As a way to connect more deeply here, I invite everyone to explore the announcements insert and engage in the numerous opportunities available here. From our hands, as written by our congregation on Stewardship Sunday and displayed here by the 2019 Pledge Team, these hands remind us that we need each other because love cannot grow in a bubble, so we don't go crazy, to stay focused on our efforts for a more just world, and to know that we are never alone. The Pledge Team invites you to read our collective wisdom after the service and to add your own thoughts on why we need one another at their table in the Commons Room during coffee. Come even if you already have a hand up, because we can never have too many hands, and come to get any questions you may have about this year's pledge drive answered. Become a worship associate. Worship associates help lead our Sunday worship services, collaborating with the ministers to reflect on meaning, purpose, and the life of the congregation. For more information, see page 2 of your announcements insert. Please find more details on all of these and more places to engage in the announcements insert. Finally, please silence any electronic devices for the remainder of the service. Once again, I welcome you into First Church by inviting you to join me in the unison reading of our mission, which is printed in your order of service. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. Will Cassidy Kahn Pettigrew and Grace Hopkins please come forward to light our chalice?
Good morning. Our words today come from Reverend Alicia Ford, who has just recently been appointed Director of the Internal Offices at the Unitarian Universalist Association. She identifies as an African descent, queer, cisgender female with deep roots in Tobago. When we pause to remember who we are, companions in this grand experiment called life, when we take a moment to shed the ways we have been carefully taught, to lead from fear, to punish the poor, to persecute those who don't look like us, to deny rights to those who love, to believe we are separate, that some people are superior to others. When we take a moment to shed all of that and hear our stories, hear and see each other into existence, into community, when we take a moment to embrace, to practice a different way of being, when we answer the call to love, then we are building into the promise of building the world we dream about. It is beautiful to dream, to cast a vision, to stretch our minds into the future and imagine what we may be if we were to do. To build a way of being, not someday, not every day, but beginning again today, beginning again every day that we have breath, taking courage with these hands and hearts to make real the dream of a more equitable world, to journey together, seeking to be transformed, even as we transform. Becoming explorers and learners in the world around us, humbled by what we do not yet know, fulfilling the promise of healing a fragmented world, laboring not just in love, but also in hope. In the Spirit we commit, in the Spirit we pray. in the Spirit we gather.
Once upon a time, there was a crayon. He was red, but he wasn't very good at it. His teacher, Miss Scarlet, thought that he needed more practice. I'll draw a red strawberry, and then you draw a red strawberry, she exclaimed. You can do this, really. But he couldn't. Those teachers' red strawberries, his were blue. Like this? He asked. But his teacher shook her head. Oh my, let's try again. His mother, Olive, thought that maybe he needed to mix more with other colors. Why don't you two go ahead and draw a nice round orange, she asked Red and Yellow. A really large one, yelled Yellow. A really orange one, Red eagerly exclaimed. But they made a large greenish one instead. Yuck, yelled Yellow. Oops, Red apologized. His grandparents thought that he wasn't warm enough. Your class is making self-portraits for parents' night. Wear this red scarf, it's so you, they told him. But it wasn't. Red's picture was still blue. Edward seemed to have something to say. Sometimes I wonder if he's really red at all, asked Amber. Don't be silly, said Hazelnut. It says red on his label. He came that way from the factory, Cocoa Bean chimed in. Fuchsia disagreed. Frankly, I don't think he's very bright. The other crayons agreed. He's lazy, he has to press harder, really apply himself. Sunshine was more lenient. Give him time, he'll catch on. Of course he will, Sea Green agreed. But he didn't catch on. Green drew a green frog, black drew a black sheep, brown drew a brown cow, and red drew a blue ant. All of the art supplies wanted to help. The masking tape thought that he was broken inside and wrapped him up. The scissors thought that his label was too tight and gave it a small snip. The pencil thought that he wasn't sharp enough and gave him to the sharpener. But even with all their help and all of his hard work, he just couldn't get the hang of it. One day, he met a new friend, Barry. Will you make me a blue ocean for my boat? Barry asked. I can't, I'm red, Red told him. Will you try? So he did, and made a big blue ocean. Thank you, it's perfect, Barry exclaimed. You're welcome. It was easy, Red told him. And he didn't stop there. Blue bells, blue jeans, blue birds, blueberries, blue whale.
I'm blue!
He was blue, and everyone was talking. My son is brilliant, exclaimed his mother. Who would have known, asked Amber. I always knew he was blue, said Hazelnut. It was obvious. His blue ocean really lifted me, Barry added. The other crayons agreed. All of his work makes me happy. His blue strawberries are my favorite. He's so intense. I hear he's working on a huge new project, his grandmother announced. He's really reaching for the sky. And as he drew the big blue sky above them, he really was. For our
Hello, I'm Austin Straub, and before I start talking about where do we come from, I should first tell you where I come from. I'm a lifelong member and attendee of First Church, albeit sometimes reluctantly due to a combination of youth group's 9 a.m. start time and my habit of staying up till ungodly hours, binging YouTube videos like the top 10 cheese aging processes that will blow your mind and Hillbilly blows up wasp nest with hairspray Molotov. I am also an avid soccer player and senior at Rufus King High School here in Milwaukee. That's where I'd like to begin. Rufus King is a good high school, but like any other, its lunchroom is a breeding ground for cliques and insecurities. Should I sit here? Should I say that? After dealing with this for 4 years, I asked myself, why do teenagers care what other people think so much? I pondered this question for a while and started to notice maybe it wasn't just a teenage phenomenon to identify yourself with a group. Everyone defines themselves by a group they fit into. When asked who they are, they'll say, I'm a mother, doctor, Unitarian, American. But why? Why are we so fixated on these group identities? Well, you may be surprised to know I found an insight on another one of my late night YouTube binges when I came across Joe Rogan's podcast with psychologist William von Hippel discussing his book, The Social Leap. And get this, the reason why we care so much what others think is throwing. Here, let me explain. Millions of years ago, when our ape ancestors moved from the treetops to the open savannas of Africa, they made easy prey for lions, hyenas, and leopards lurking in the shadows. So our ancestors had to adapt, and by pure luck, a chimp picked up a rock and threw it at a predator one day, and that bought it enough time to escape. So that chimp had little chimp babies, and his babies had babies too. So on and so forth, until there was a whole community of chimps that could throw a rock. See, one chimp throwing a rock doesn't really do much to deter a predator, but a whole pack of chimp throwing a rock throwing chimp, chimps that can throw rocks, creates a formidable pack that can kill. An organized, socialized pack of rock throwers is even better. So after hearing von Hippel explain this, it made a lot more sense why it was so important to be a part of the group. Why we long to be a part of the group is because it's a means to our survival. Even though we've moved from the plains of Africa and replaced them with the concrete jungle or suburban sprawl, this survival mechanism still rings true. Just imagine where you would be without your friends, your family, your community. Would you have made it through those tough times in your life? If you did, you wouldn't be the same. You wouldn't be you. You wouldn't survive just like the few lonely apes on the savannah who were swallowed up by the leopards and hyenas. Remember that next time your friend tells the punchline to your joke, or that weird elderly relative pokes you for the 13th time on Facebook. Because you wouldn't be you without them, and they wouldn't be them without you.
Hello everyone, my name is Lucy Pine. Now, although group identity comes from a place of survival, it goes much deeper than that in today's society. As humans, we feel a need for comfort and connection. This is what we seek in having a group identity. Everyone on their own has a certain identity specific to them, and no one else can match that. But the individual parts of our identity can help us relate to others. We organize ourselves and each other by race, religion, gender, sexuality, likes, dislikes, what music we listen to, or what movies we watch. And this helps us connect to and understand other humans. Group identity gives a sense of place, or even purpose. As groups, we are stronger, and although we may not wholly identify with a group, many voices are louder than one. This is why I might start a sentence with, as a white female, or as a lover of theater. Adjectives associating me with a certain group makes it seem like I have an army backing me up. The problem with that is that I am then speaking for everyone who identifies with those things, many of whom may not think the same way. Group identity can give a certain sense of power, too. Just because one person belongs to a group, they are seen as, or feel more important, more valid than the next. It breeds discrimination, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and on. It breeds stereotypes, marginalizes minorities, and restricts people to one way of being. And this isn't new, it goes back to the beginning of time. There has always been a hierarchy based on group identity. We didn't start it, but we can try to end it. We can break out of the stereotypes, hate, and misunderstandings, and use our groups for good. We need to realize that what group someone belongs to doesn't define them. It is only one word in an essay of identity, and although group identity can help us find our place in the world, we need to consider the whole person and not just their parts.
As some of you probably know, YRUU has an annual mission trip to Habitat for Humanity's Battle Creek branch. It's a week-long trip that consists of ramp building, roofing, and other construction tasks. This year will be my third trip to Battle Creek, and I have to say that some of my fondest memories are of my time there. Whether it was swinging a pickaxe to dig up trenches for an in-ground ramp so an elderly lady could finally return home from the hospital, helping put in insulation, or building a house so that a less privileged family could have a home of their own, I always felt a sense of fulfillment after returning home. It wasn't just because of the experience of helping those who needed it, but because of the friendship and new perspectives it gave me. I have to admit that on my first trip, I was a little skeptical about going on a week-long trip with a bunch of kids I saw on my irregular trips to youth group. But after a run through the mission trip playlist and a few gasps of, "I love this song," and "Whose song is this?" I started to feel right at home. That's one of the great things about mission trip, is getting to know people you might have never spoken to. Also, since there are no phones on the trip, we get to experience the company of our fellow teens without the distractions of Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. Something that left a lot of youth, myself included, feeling refreshed and wishing they had more time away from their cellular devices. Unfortunately, this year is my final trip, and I will miss John Fetak's impeccable taste in music, the late nights playing Uno with friends, and teaching new mission trippers how to use a screw gun properly. However, the fulfillment of helping other people and the joy of singing a song with friends and the relief of spending time with people who really understand will always stay with me.
Every week, we have an opportunity to practice our values through sharing our resources. When we do, we are saying, "First Church matters to me." Our pledges are at the core of our spiritual practice and generosity. In addition, the church shares half of all non-pledged cash in our offering plate with a community organization. In this way, we commit our resources in line with our belief that this congregation is interdependent with the world beyond these walls. Today, we share the plate with Pathfinders of Wisconsin, and since today is a special youth service, half of all non-pledged cash will go toward our annual Habitat for Humanity Youth Mission Trip Fund. May the practice of giving bring us joy. The
Edward Gorey once said, "I am a person before I am anything else. I never say I am a writer. I never say I am an artist. I am a person who does those things." This quote strikes a deep chord in all of us for the simple reason that we know one part of our identity can't possibly encompass all of it. My name is Gus. I'm non-binary, lesbian, pagan, white, a writer, a believer in love, and above all else, someone who is constantly trying to do better in everything I do. Personal identity is made up of everything we are and everything we hope to be in the future. But we aren't born knowing exactly who we are. I know I still haven't quite figured it out, and I have no doubt that my self-perception will continue to stretch and change throughout my lifespan. I may never understand myself fully. When I was in 6th grade, I began to come out for the first time. I identified as bisexual since I knew I liked girls and figured I must like guys as well, since all my friends did. I told several close friends as well as my parents and found the deeply supportive community that I've been so lucky to have throughout my journey. I also began to feel the first inklings of being uncomfortable in my gender identity, and I did what I do best. I started researching. I learned about being non-binary and all of the different forms it could take, and I was ecstatic. There was a name for what I was feeling. In 7th and 8th grade, I realized that all of my supposed crushes on boys were simply the result of thinking they were cool and wanting to be their friend. I didn't quite know how to come out again when I had already done it, so I dropped hints and hoped people would catch on. In the last couple months of middle school, I started asking my friends to use neutral pronouns for me to see how it would feel. To my surprise, I felt much more comfortable and the rightness settled into my bones. High school allowed me to essentially reinvent myself. I'm so much more comfortable in my own skin. I'm out as both gay and non-binary, and I have an amazing group of friends who I trust with my heart and they trust me with theirs. But coming out isn't something you do once. Despite the signifiers I put on display, my pronoun pin and pride bracelets, I constantly make myself vulnerable in order to be heard. I've been very lucky in that I've managed to only have a couple instances of homophobia directed at me. But my queerness isn't the only identity-related journey I've gone through. The fact that I'm white and therefore have a large amount of privilege used to be something that I tried to avoid thinking about. Because although I'm gay, although I'm non-binary, being white still makes those things easier. And then until I started recognizing my own privilege, I wasn't able to really know myself. It meant that for my entire life, I've been surrounded by people that look like me. White people benefit from racism, and until we recognize that, we can't begin the process of tearing it down. The first step to resolve any problem is to recognize it. Denial won't help us move forward. Religion has also been part of my journey, partly because of this incredibly welcoming church. I was agnostic, then firmly atheist, and then agnostic again. When I joined my stage crew this year, I was pagan and learned quite a lot about all the different ways people can be pagan, specifically Wicca. Stage crew had the largest concentration of witches I had ever met, including several of my mentors. We were quite literally one witch short of a coven. Several people practiced and followed a pagan religion, some just practiced and some just followed. It taught me about the endless variations that religion can have and how welcoming that community in particular was. Most of the things I've listed are positive or simply a fact, but my flaws are also part of who I am. Knowing those flaws means I can work towards fixing them, and I know that that kind of work is never going to be over. About every part of my identity hasn't been the same all my life. As I said before, none of us come into this world knowing how to speak, much less know who we are and who we want to be. Labeling our experiences and parts of ourselves can help us feel less alone, part of a community, but they can't possibly encapsulate everything that makes us ourselves. When I've tried to pin down what all of my identity is, I've invariably failed. The realization that I change constantly, that I can and will contradict myself, is what has made me willing to work on myself and my faults. To understand myself, I had to realize that I will never understand myself fully. Throughout my life, I've changed immeasurably. Sometimes it's helped me, and sometimes it's worked against me. But all of it is part of who I am. I'll keep trying to improve my behavior. I'll keep learning from other people's experiences, and I'll keep believing in the magic of change. Thank you.
Here we go. Hello, my name is Jonah Roth, and I am a senior. I have been attending First Church regularly for my entire life. I cannot imagine not coming here. I almost said that this church was a pretty insignificant part of my life until I started youth group, but upon further reflection, that's a flat-out lie. This church has always been instrumental in shaping some of my most important views of the world. The discussions of Bible stories from 3rd and 4th grade have taught me how to value Christian teachings and simultaneously question them. 8th grade OWL, or Our Whole Lives, has given me full comprehension of things that every child must know, but that no child likes talking about. Pillars, of course, was a blast. The list actually goes on and on. But Why Are You took my value for this church to another level. I was immediately impressed by the brilliant youth-led discussions and constant fundraising for the mission trip. The following summer, when I participated in the mission trip for the first time, I went home legitimately inspired to live my life differently. It sounds cliche, but it's true. By junior year, I was already gaining some friends whom I felt like I could trust more than anyone. Now I am a member of the Youth Steering Committee and a youth representative for the Children's Religious Education team, and it is a fascinating privilege to witness YRUU and RE from behind the scenes. Like any good Unitarian Universalist, I frequently return to the 7UU principles as guides. They all help control how I think, but two principles in particular stand out as representative of my place within the UU community. The fourth principle, which is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and the sixth principle, which is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. I often sum up my value for the UU community as an interconnected balance between these two principles. The sixth principle is crucial to me because of the anxiety of things further dividing us as humans every day. They initially seem like things that ordinary teens like me can do nothing about, but the UU community's obsession with social justice and humanistic activism has given me much greater perspective and confidence on how to actively pursue the sixth principle's goal of world community. One step in this direction is setting aside potential differences with people who need our help, and instead focusing on the fact that they need our help just as we would need theirs. This is by no means a single-handed solution, but it is still a big step, and the mission trip has directly taught me how to think in this way. I think of the fourth principle, which is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, as distinct from the sixth principle because of its internal rather than external value. The idea that life is meaningless is a common, scary perspective to take, which is why humanity holds so many rigid systems that try to explain the unexplainable. On the other hand, UUs explicitly advocate freedom and responsibility in the lifelong search for meaning to whatever extent is possible in our society. This simple concept speaks directly to humankind's elementary conflict between truth and hope. There was a certain point in my life when weekly youth group discussions have possessed the rare ability to lift my existential spirits when they felt hopelessly down, if only to a degree. Neurologist and Holocaust survivor Viktor E. Frankl was the first to say that the meaning of life is to give life meaning. When you are making your pledge card, remember that to me and many others here in youth group, nothing screams giving life meaning more than First Church.
This is a group poem being performed by me, myself, and I. It's entitled What Makes Me a Woman by Danielle Crinan. What makes me a woman is not my body. It's not the way I walk or talk. It's not how I act around men or if I cry when I see a sad movie. What makes me a woman is not determined by how often I cry. What makes me a woman is not defined by my role in society. What makes me a woman is my will, my nature to care and carry life, my ability to control an atmosphere. What makes me a woman is that I carry a storm inside of me, a monsoon that others, as if they are drops of air in money. My words, sweet as honey, but can have an aftertaste if I wish. My ability to refrain from control, but boost my humility to follow. What makes me a woman is the fact that I am the epitome of God's creation, and He smiles upon me gladly. Identity is such an overwhelming concept, and the struggle to find and define it manifests itself in many different ways. Backpacking across Europe before going to college, soul-searching at a silent retreat, joining various committees, buying a sports car to deal with the midlife crisis, the list goes on and on. When we are asked to introduce ourselves and share our identity, many times we give the basics which aid us in identifying ourselves as easily fit into a group. Hi, my name is Celia Knesny. I'm 17 years old, a senior at Rufus King. I like sunflowers, writing, and dogs. But that's not who we really are. We're so much more than the things we like on Pinterest and the person we try so hard to become. The weight we try so hard to lose, the scars and wrinkles we try to cover, the mold which we try so hard to fit in. Our identity is tied to every thought and action we put our heart to, everyone and everything we pray for, every passion we cultivate and work for. Our identity is made up of what we love. Each of us have our own individual identities that make us who we are. Sometimes those identities are made up from the things that we hide from other people that wouldn't necessarily make us seem like the best part of a group. Many of you don't know me. Some of you know me from my action in the church. Hi, my name is Celie Knesny. I struggle with anxiety and depression daily by trying to be good enough for everyone and reminding myself I'm not good enough for anyone and lashing out at people who mean a lot to me. I let my stress consume me and in turn make myself physically ill and put myself in extreme pain. The nice parts of ourselves that we put on display and become how we are identified is the single story and expectation of who we should be. It's time to embrace our true, encompassing individual identities now.
My name is Nyana and I am sick.
My name is Austin and I'm slowly worried about talking to this mic now.
My name is Lucy and I'm an only child.
My name is Adina and my favorite flower is lily of the valley.
My name is Cecilia and I'm a belly dancer.
My name is Zoe and I go to Shorewood High School.
My name's Lona and I'm gay.
My name is Cassidy and I play soccer.
I'm Sam. I like to laugh and make people laugh.
I'm Ian. I'm a member of the Satanic Temple.
I'm Clarity and I'm going to UW Whitewater next year.
I'm Gus and I cry when I'm really proud of a fictional character.
I'm Anna and I'm generally very quiet. I'm Grace Hopkins and I like musical theater.
I'm Paul and I like to draw.
I'm Abby and I'm going to UW Lacrosse next year.
Together, our identities come. Oh, Jonah.
I'm Jonah, and people sometimes forget about me. I'm Dylan, and I'm with Jonah on that one.
I'm sorry. Together, our identities come together to form something much bigger than ourselves. Today, we form the face of change and the revolution.